Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin al-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqulu Allahu ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem, inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala an-nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The talk today begins with what we call the Oakland story, or the Oakland story which relates to East Oakland Enterprises. We've talked about this many times, but about 50 years ago, we were engaged in an organization which we called East Oakland Enterprises. Now, East Oakland Enterprises was technically, it was a black economic zone. That's what it was. It was a zone where we managed mainly and controlled the flow of the economy. And what made it different was, it's the same thing Martin Luther King wanted to do in 1968 in Chicago. And he didn't quite make it because of his assassination. So what we had in Oakland was an economic enterprise zone where the flow of money came into the black community and it circulated around and around the community. And this is the way it does in Chinese community, Jewish community, Korean communities, all the other communities. The money come in the community and it circulates. That means that everybody in the community, or most of the people, get a part of that money. In the black community, money comes directly in and it goes straight out. None of the shoppers, none of the Safeways, none of the stores, even many of the mechanics, most of those people are people from outside the community. That means the money comes in the community and goes directly out of the community. I don't want to labor on the subject, but that was a big, giant step for us in Oakland, because that means that we managed and we controlled our community, and actually we were still in our early 20s. This is what made it special. So, let's jump up 30 or 40 years. Or what we have is the government of the United States that remembers very well those times. Now I want you to put in your mind an idea of black people, especially Muslims, that they actually practices the things that they talk about. They realize and they institutionalize the very subject that they're discussing. And I want you to also think about 35, 40 years ago, there's Islamic transition going on in the world. So the system is looking at this Islam. Now, I want you to remember now that the Islamic movement had already been, let's say by 83 and 82 and 83, this is one of our last big groups right here. The last poets is from the Dar al-Islam movement. The Dar al-Islam movement was very famous. But the Dar al-Islam movement was crushed by the United States government. It infiltrated the movement, which they always do. It sabotaged the work of the movement, and as big and as powerful as it was, in one blow they brought that movement down. So that was called the Dar al-Islam movement. We had another movement right here in D.C., the Islamic Party of North America. It didn't take long for the government to get right up next to the leadership, to infiltrate the leadership, to sabotage the leadership, and pretty soon you had brothers going overseas to Dominica and other places. Why? Because they didn't think they could survive here. So this has been our history here in America. That's the way it's been. And that's the way everyone accepted it. They accepted that, but we didn't. Here's what we want to do today. So in spite of Steve Emerson, Sean Hannity, Daniel Pipes, NSA, FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, and a host of other clowns, Masjid al-Islam in East Oakland is the only independent masjid that stands for Allah against American Zionism. Now I want you to remember, we are independent. One of our best photos or videos is a few years back when you see Mukhtar leading. Mukhtar is a Zionist, Afro-Zionist. He is leading a whole group of Arabs and others into our masjid. He's actually forcing himself into our masjid. Of course, if you look at it, you would think it was a takeover. For us, it is one of the highlight, one of the greatest photos, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And you have all of these Arabs behind a Negro, and they're forcing themselves in a masjid in East Oakland. So here's what we want to do. Imam Musa, inshallah, wants to share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. What is psychological guerrilla warfare, and how in the heck does it work? Here's an article from Steve Emerson, posted July 7th, 2011, right around the time of the Arab Spring. Radical Islamic group tries to branch out. This article right here, it prints Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. They print one of our articles almost exactly as it was written. Now, at first, we have like our websites here, and a few hundred people watch or this, that, and other. But there's hundreds of thousands of people watch their website. Hundreds of thousands of people watch their website. So what they did was, in brief, they took people who were being ignored and put them on the front page. The same as going up to a police and tell them, take out your gun and blow your own head off, and he does it. That's what psychological guerrilla warfare is, and that's how it worked. It worked against the exact people that we meant for it to work. The Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. So what we want to do is we want to teach that subject, how to practice it and how it works. as time goes on, people will gain more confidence in what we're doing. They'll gain more knowledge of what we're trying to do. And so they will begin to see As-Sabiqun Liberation Movement or As-Sabiqun Liberation Organization as an organization that actually says things and does almost exactly what they say they're going to do. That's what we've already done. So the College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. Now, to expose, to expose the world as it really is a great transition from accepting the world the way it is. As Gandhi said himself, that you have to expose evil. You have to expose oppression. You have to expose these things, and when it's exposed, then you can do something about it. That's what we had thought about. Now, when we talk about, this is what we thought about, or think about, or do, I want you to take your mind back over the decades, 35 years and 40 years ago. Here was our dilemma. By 1983, 84, and 85, our group was joined by different people. The group would build up and build up and build up. You may open another masjid somewhere, like Denver and what have you. Then it closes down. They blow your group, your movement, your organization up with people, and then guess what? It's their people. They come right around and pull them out. So we had to think now. We're going back to around 85 and 86. Now, this is the evolutionary process now that we're going through, because here's some things that we know. That this is a long-range struggle. It's a evolutionary or revolutionary process. That means that in this long-range process, in this long-range procedure, this is a protracted. It could be decades long. For us, it's been 3.5 decades, easy. Basically 4 decades. So the College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. As we go along a little bit, we're going to show you how we, as an organization, have placed the enemies of Allah and Islam in a position to where they did what? They had to expose themselves. Not only did they expose themselves, but through repetition, through having the long-range patience and fortitude and endurance to endure this psychological pressure. Because you have to remember, all of the time, it's like when you go past our flyers, like the other day. Some people, 80% of the people walk by and look at you like you're crazy. You have to endure that, right? You have to be able to take all of that. And the feeling that you get pretty soon is, nobody likes me. Nobody likes what we're doing. Nobody cares what people think. But that very thing is a thing that you use. Nobody cares. Nobody is listening. Nobody is paying attention. You use that exact same thing to force them out in open. Because pretty soon they get rolling. Don't nobody care about them, so we do one more thing. Don't nobody care about them, they do another. Pretty soon, within 10 years or 5 years or 15 years, remember this stuff takes decades, they standing out in the open with their butt sticking up in the air like a baboon. That's the way the people are now. People in Oakland and D.C., and technically, we don't want to stretch too far, but it is a worldwide phenomenon that we have endeavored in, and we have, with Allah's help, exposed a lot of the people the way they really are. Learn how Masjid al-Islam has exposed the whole Zionist American network in the public sphere. Never has so few done so much for so many without visible support. Right now, we're passing out flyers, and that's going to go through certain stages. After that, we're going to pass out other of our, let's call it, messages like this. We'll pass this out. That's the second stage. After that, we'll pass out police reports, police statements. This is things what people have said to the police over and over and over and over and over again. They said it themselves to the police in his own record. Everything Mukhtar said said to the police is all on record. And the police have